Hi everyone and welcome. My name's Geoff Nicholson, and as you can see, I'm a performance and mindset specialist normally, but I'm also the host of a show called Success IQ Podcast. And I'm honored today to talk about another passion that I have, which is podcasting. And we're going to talk about the 5 P's of podcasting, which is about getting into the consciousness of your prospects and people that you are trying to connect with. So we're going to talk about podcasting. Now, podcasting is, I think, really unique. And it's really unique because it allows you to get to a closer relationship with the people that you're trying to talk to. I mean, if you think about it, when you are doing podcasting, you are able to connect with them in a deeper level. I mean, they're actually putting you in their ears there. And you can reach them in ways that you can't on other modalities. And because when you're driving, you can listen to a podcast. When you're at the gym, you can listen to the podcast. You can listen to a podcast while you're running. And I'm finding more and more times that I'm speaking to people, one of the things that they are saying is that they're listening to more podcasts than they are audiobooks, which would have been their traditional way of doing it. And they're not listening to the radio as much because what they're able to do is choose the shows that are very specific and very niched down to what they do. So I think that's very, very unique. And the podcasting certainly is a rapidly growing vehicle to promote and grow brands and communicate and share your passion and hobbies with people. So I think that's a huge benefit to how people are doing things. Now, the other thing is this is my show, Success IQ Podcast. It's 3 years old. We've got about 150 plus episodes. I'm listened to in 45 countries, and I've got over 100 hours of content. Now, I don't say that because, hey, look at me. But what I do say is one of the powers of a podcast is the reach and the content creation. Like, there's very rarely that I would be able to get in front of people in 45 different countries and have an opportunity to share and promote and sell to them. I'm also listened on many of the major podcast platforms, which is Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Stitcher, as well as some other ones. And you know, when I first started out, I started very, very simply for a very, very simple reason. I struggle with writing content. I'm dyslexic. It's not my strong point. And what I was finding is that the fact that I was trying to share the content in written word actually started to affect my confidence because there was the grammar police out there that were liking to identify all the things I were getting wrong rather than ultimately what the message was that I was trying to share. So what I tried to look at is, well, what mode of communication could I use? I love video, but video for me is a very cost production high in the sense of good quality would mean that I have to do a lot of setting up and things can go wrong. And if something goes wrong, then all of a sudden it's got to be done again because I'm a high level of perfectionism in what I do. And then the other thing is what I loved about podcasting was it can be dead quick. It can literally be, let's plug in a mic, let's go and let's head off. So I think for me, that was very much the way I started out. Now, this is not my first show. I've actually done 3 other shows. 2 of them, you will never find any content because it was so terrible. So Success IQ Podcast was basically the lessons that I've learned. I had more passion and purpose for what I was wanting to share. So one of the things that we're going to talk about, or 5 of the things we're going to talk about, are the 5 Ps. These are things that I've kind of like learned and figured out as I was running through this journey in creating a show. And they're very simple: passion, purpose, produce, promote, profit. And whether I'm doing this show or whether I will do another production, I will always look from this point of view and how I do it. Again, these are only based on my experiences, my lessons, what I've learned. I'm sure that some people are going to disagree with them, but ultimately I can only share what I know and how useful. It's done me well, so hopefully they are going to be of benefit to you. So let's talk about the first thing, passion. Passion in something that you love. To me, never pick a show or never pick doing something, whether it's anything, if you're not passionate behind it. Because the passion is going to be, it's going to show that you love it. It's going to be the energy behind it. It's going to be something that you can talk about for ages and ages. And when you talk about something you're passionate about, it's contagious for other people who are passionate about it as well and have an interest in it. So I think that's really, really important. The next thing is passion fuels during the challenging times. Podcasting is difficult in the sense of it isn't an overnight success. There's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of dedicating a huge amount of time that you're not paid for, that you are doing in order to get the production created. And at first it is going to feel like you are literally just doing it for you. And at first that very might as well be the case. You know, there'll be disappointment when you launch an episode and only one person listens to it or a handful of people. But putting out good content consistently, and I'm sure that's a marketing lesson that you will all know or certainly hear about, is the importance of consistency. And thirdly, don't do it for the money. It's not Field of Dreams. You may see other people who have got huge productions and they've got all these sponsorships being thrown at them and all of this. But the reality is that is based on hard work. And some of the stats are, they say 2 to 3 years before your show starts putting the getting the traction and the energy, because they've shown that you're consistent, you've shown your audience that you're serious about it, and then all of a sudden that starts to grow. It doesn't mean that it's not a powerful vehicle, but what it does mean is manage your expectations effectively in order to make sure that they're going to deliver what you're wanting to. And then what we have is the purpose. What is the purpose of it? You know, it doesn't matter whether you're looking at a normal plan or a business plan or anything, there has to be a purpose for what you are doing. And although I'm going to talk about this in a business context, it doesn't matter. But the 3 questions for me you want to ask yourself first is, what is the aim? What are you doing for your show? For me, it's about entertaining and educating. Now, you do them both, whether it is talking about hobbies and passions that you have about knitting and filming and or you know, comic books or sci-fi, it doesn't matter. It's understanding what is the aim. The aim could be building a brand, learning to, educating people about your products and services within your industry, those sort of things. My aim was very simple. I'm fascinated about what people are doing in order to make themselves successful. And the ability to interview people and ask them questions and expand my network had a really positive potential to it. So it was right, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And also the aim it was a way for me to create content without the resistance I was getting from the other ways. The next question you want to ask yourself, who's the target? Whether it's a fan-based thing that you're doing it because you love movies or whatever it is, or whether it is you're targeting your prospects. So for example, my target are listeners who own their own businesses, are passionate about self-development, want to make improvements, are looking at how can they, up their mindset game and all of those sort of things. And they are the people who ultimately I want, as a result, what do I want? I want them to warm to me and to want to buy my products when I start promoting them. I think that's the other aspect, is what is the result that you want? Is it to grow a community of fans, or is it to create a funnel where you can start selling products? Not straight away. Personally, I wouldn't recommend that. Let them build a relationship up with you. I think I had done possibly about 50 to 60 episodes before I started dropping little hints about join a community or start purchasing products or stuff. So that's another important aspect of when you are doing those things. Understand what's your aim, who is your target, and what's the result that you're looking for. Then we come to producing. How are you going to produce your show? What does the format look like? What is its structure? When you start out, one of the best ways that I feel you can do is get a spreadsheet. I use Notion or Evernote or whatever it is you want to use, and just map out what you want the show to look like. I go down to the point where I want this amount of seconds for the intro, then the intro tune, and then this bit for the interview, possibly for the mid-roll, which is an advertisement thing. Then the second part of the show, because my show, I chose to split it in two. First part was let's have a chat with the guest, and second part is let's ask the guest specific set questions that I'll ask every single body who comes on the show. Is two things: one, to get a common thread, to find out really what are the common challenges that we all have, but also as part of a research thing. So when the more and more people I interview, the more and more data I collect for certain things. So it allows me to do that. So when you look at your formatting, what you can do is you can listen to shows. The more shows you listen to, you get a good idea of what you like, what you don't like. You don't have to copy anyone. You can still make it your own. There's some great podcasts out there that are just, some of them are absolutely crazy and hilarious. Others are just very formal, and some are informal. So you just think about what is your style? How do you want to do that? Then when you've chosen your format and you've kind of like looked at the structure, it's important that you understand that you don't have to stay with that structure. I first started out just doing episode after episode after episode every single week. I then decided to do seasons because it was a lot more beneficial in the production side, which we're going to talk about in the next bit. But it was very much how that I wanted to do it. But then I got some interesting feedback on an audience survey where they asked that they would like to hear more of me, just me, rather than just me interviewing, which is great because that means then all of a sudden there's an interest in me as a brand and what I do. So once you get to a certain point, you can then start asking people and surveying and getting statistics and evidence and information that allows you to tweak the show how you want it. But it's your show, and you create it the way you feel it is. So whether it is segmented, whether it has loads of different sections in, it doesn't matter. What matters is that it fits with how you want to communicate and that your listeners like the format. If you're doing a format that listeners don't like, you won't get listeners. So make sure you look at that. Then we have the recording and editing. Podcasting's are dead simple to do. In fact, put a mic to a computer and you can do it. The thing that you've got to understand is the audio quality is important because people will kind of like switch off. So whether you are looking at a mic like this, now this mic is called a Rode Podcaster. It's about £210. It's not cheap, but when I first started out, I used a blue Snowball, which was about £45. Sound quality was good. I just wanted to up the production level, and I moved to this. But you can really simply do it with a phone and some pods. You could do it that way. That's not really much of a problem when you are looking at doing it. The other thing, what you can do, I'm just going to change the camera here so we can see that. So pods in your ear, listen to your phone. There's a couple of, you can get podcasting apps for your phone and your iPad. Anchor is a platform that allows you to do podcasting, promote podcasting. And if I'm correct, I think it's free. I'm not 100% sure. This is a Rode Lav Plus, Smart Lav. I love Rode as a product. That works great with your phone and your cameras if you decide to use that, or other recorders. But Rode do a really other cool thing, which is, let's say, for example, it's not just host-only shows, but you want to interview people, and you go to an event and you meet someone and they go, oh yeah, this is, I would love to chat with you and record our conversation. This is an old version. They do a new version for the new phones, but this is a Rode SC6. And it allows me to plug 2 lav mics in and a set of headphones. So I can literally go to a cafe, stick a mic on my guest and me, and we can sit down and have a conversation. I can interview them on the go. So that really makes life super easy. It's part of my podcasting go kit when I'm doing it. even if we want to go even simpler and old school, my kids told me that this was really old fashioned. This is a dictaphone. This is a really simple digital recorder that allows me to put a mic in and do the recording. Quality is really, really good. But that makes it simple. Want to go up a level? Something that's expensive is about £500. This is called a Zoom H6. It's practically a recording studio in the palm of your hand. It allows 4 mics, great quality, splits the audio. It just makes life a lot easier if that's how you feel. I generally will take this if I'm going to a client's location and we do interviews, or we talk about how we can promote and how we can set up things. So it just becomes a great little tool. And to be honest, you could just use that. That's a mic on top, so you could just basically have a communication like that as well. So from a production part of view, a recording, it's really, really simple. The editing bit, now, it can feel a little bit overwhelming at first, but you can use some software or Audacity. It's free. I use Adobe Audition, which is it's not crazy expensive, but it can be expensive for you just starting out. There's other platforms that allow you to edit within your iPad and do everything from your iPad. So it really just, how do you want to do it? What is the style that you want? Do you want it a quick and go, or do you want to make a production factor out of it? Those are the questions that you need to ask yourself when you are going down that route. Then what we're going to look at is we've got to think about the when we talk about it, we've got to talk about the editing side we've done, the recording side we've done, the systems and processes that make life easier. That sometimes comes later on, but batching and blocking is a really good strategy to do. I used to basically record on a Monday, edit on a Tuesday, and launch on a Wednesday. That was a nightmare and took up a huge amount of work and a lot of evenings, because I wasn't meeting the level of productivity I needed to be a little bit smarter with what I do. So part of that is, when you get to a place, it's looking at your systems on inviting people and getting them to book times, and then setting those times aside. So batching and blocking is really, really simple. I choose one specific day a week to record podcasts. And because of my processes, it's all automatic. It's all happening in the background, and people are going and booking them, and the calendar just basically fills up. But what it means is that I know on a Thursday that I have got an amount of interviews to do. So I know at the minute, from now to the next 3 weeks, I've got 15 interviews to do. That means that I've got, without not thinking about the bucket that I've already got, I've got 15 weeks worth of content that, once edited, will allow me to go, I'm done for 15, 16, 17 weeks, however long that is. And what it means is that should I be ill, which, with what's going on in the world at the minute, or should there go on holiday, I'm not running by the seat of my pants panicking because all of a sudden I'm missing episodes to produce. Now, what that does do is it means it gets you very, very focused in a specific time of the week or month where you go, right, I'm going to just knuckle down and get the content created, especially the editing and the production, because it's not just the editing. It's building the website, the post page, it's setting up your promotions, it's communicating with either PAs or the people who have been on the show or the speaker bureaus that are sending you guests, and making sure that they have everything. And then knowing and relaxing, going, I know that everything's done. Because if you think about it, if you're really effective and efficient on what you're doing, you can basically interview 15 people, or let's say 20 people, edit that out, and then map out everything that needs to get done, and it is done. The next thing, which is it's not really a hack, but it's something that we can start thinking about, is I talked about my lack of love for blogging, but now there's technology where people can send your interview and have it transcribed. There's Rev, there's Trint, there's Otter. Rev is someone typing it out. Trint and Otter is digital. And what it will do is it will transcribe all of the content, which means that then all of a sudden is you can pull bits out, and you've got social media posts, you've got blog content. If you've recorded on video, you've got video for YouTube. So there's all sorts of great gems that you can maximize your productivity on when you do that. So that's a thing to think about when you're producing the content. And then what we talk about is so here's an example of how easy it can be. Two people, one with a coffee, one probably a glass of water, but who knows, it could be a G&T. And they're literally sitting there with their computer and they're just talking. That's how easy it is to do a podcast. The next picture is a really simple workflow of this is my desk. I've got the audio software in front, that's Audition from Adobe. Below that, I've got my production side with Trello, which is set up, and all of the information, one sheets, photos, conversations that we had during it, which were thoughts and resources that they gave me during that conversation. That's all there. And then on the right-hand side on my iPad, there's a structure of the show. Now, even though I've done 150 episodes, I still have everything written down so I don't get lost. Or if I get distracted, I've had power cuts, I've had police sirens come past the door, all of those sorts of stuff that's distracted us. It helps you bring you back to where you need to be. So that's a great way of doing it. Now, when I talk about systems, the way I've got it is my application process is online. They fill it in. Once they fill it in, there's a couple of things that happen really, really quickly. One, they will get an email that sends them a link to book their appointment. The second thing it will do is once they've booked and they've filled in the application form, I will automatically get a card created on my Trello board to tell me that someone has just booked in, and it will drop in all of the relevant information for me, which means that I'm not chasing tail. This also allows me to communicate with my team that I have now if I was to farm out the editing or to do other things. So it's just very much makes life easier, but think about the productivity and the time that you're not wasting because you're getting things done. That's not to say that I don't have late nights and we get done. That's part and parcel of it. But it's thinking about your production and batching and blocking that's going to be massively beneficial to you when you are doing those things. Then we have promoting. So how are you going to promote your show? How are you going to send it out there? You want to look at hosting. So there's different hostings. There's Anchor, which is one that's a very much based on within that platform. I use a great company called Captivate.fm. There's Libsyn, which is one of the longest running podcast hostings there is. And there's tons of them. But what you're looking for is a company that you can set up with, and they will automatically send it once it's been set up to all of the channels. So it'll send it to Spotify, it'll send it to Apple, it'll send it to Stitcher and Amazon Music. You're wanting to do that so you can maximize your impact and spread the message and spread people about your show. We've talked about multi-purpose content. The other thing is to promote, use your network. Use the people, use social media, LinkedIn, look at the channels that are relevant to your market. So for me, it's LinkedIn, but that I still do it on all of them in order to help maximize that. But use the people that you know. If people know and trust you and you're sharing great content, that they'll spread it around. And then also think about if you're doing like interviews is a way to benefit your network as well. The one lesson I have learned is you don't always benefit from getting big names on your show. The reason being is many of them don't necessarily have to promote. So what there is where you're getting these names and thinking, oh, well, it's going to go to 20, 30, 100, 150,000 people. What I've certainly found is there's quite a high percentage of them that don't send it out, or certainly don't seem to do it actively. But what I have noticed is it's the hungry people, the people who are starting out, who still have some gems of information, but they don't really share it they share it more effectively. So then we talk about profit. How are you going to how is this going to earn money? Ultimately, not everyone, if you're doing it for a hobby, you may not look at it from that point of view. But from a business, how can it turn into a money-making engine? Apart from the content generation and the fact that you're able to share those resources out to people for them to get to know you, how can you do that? Well, first of all, there's sponsorship. Now, what I would say is sponsorship isn't immediately going to fly towards you. You're not going to get all these big names like Squarespace and stuff sending stuff to you. There has to be groundwork done. There has to be a community that are going to interact and beneficial for those target markets. Never be afraid to reach out and go, what do I need to do to get sponsorship? Where does the show need to be? But what I would do I would wait until you've had some traction with your show before you start doing that. I do get sponsors. They're generally smaller businesses who look at doing that because they feel that my audience are going to be useful to them. But I'm still aspiring to get the Squarespaces and stuff on there. Only time will tell. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the show to convert listeners to clients and develop future prospects. So what I'm doing is I'm sharing, the lessons, the strategies, the bits about me. I started to add advertising about my products and services or events that I'm going to be talking at or events that I'm holding in order to try and drop that. Because the way that I look at that is if someone has listened to me for a year, then they've listened to a huge amount of episodes. And if someone loves your show, what generally will happen is they'll listen and then they'll go to the beginning and then they'll listen through the lot. You want those people to really look forward to hearing your show. So that's a really important part. And finally, it's, the benefit of actually doing something like this allows me, and I'm just going to move this slightly, so sorry if that's a little bit freaky. It allows me to create the products and services that feed from the podcast. So whether it's the Roadshow or the Catalyst online program or the mastermind groups or the one-to-one coaching, all of these have a benefit of being fed from the podcast. It's a growing thing. It's work in progress. It always is. But I think if you have the passion to do what you are doing and you are interested in that topic, then it's amazing the results that you can do. Have fun with it. For me, the golden rule is have fun. It should be a fun process. It's not always going to be, but if you get great guests and the more you do it, and then all of a sudden what you may find in certain topics, you may get speaker agencies specifically focusing on podcasts that send you guests. So now it's a lot easier for me to get guests because I have 3 or 4 bureaus that are sending me guests from all over the world to go, will you have them on the show? And never be afraid to go, no, they're not a fit. Sometimes you just want to get as many people on. Make sure that it's congruent and in line with what you're doing, the brand that you're doing, and the message that you're trying to get out there. Don't just jump on a big name, because what you may find is either they take over the thing and you very rarely get into any interaction, or what happens is that they aren't what you expected. So finally, it just leaves me to say a massive thank you. I'm going to go back to normal mode. There you go. Finally, just to say a massive thank you. So there was a little bit of technical issues there. But thank you very much for joining me. I hope you found it interesting. Remember, I'm here all day, so if you want to speak to me about it, if you are looking to have a chat to me maybe about coaching now that you're thinking about it, or you want to speak to me about stuff about podcasting more in depth, you can visit me at www.geoffnicholson.co.uk. The information for contacting me is within the app and the platform. Always happy to talk to you. Anything I can do, please let me know. So finally, just to say, wishing you the greatest success. Have an amazing day, and I look forward to hearing from you in the future. Take care.